Welcome to Drew's Storytime. If you enjoy falling asleep here, you're very welcome to subscribe for more gentle stories and peaceful meditations. Whether you're sitting or lying down, just allow yourself to get comfortable and let tonight's story carry you gently into rest. Tonight's story is The Garden at First Light. The garden was awake before the cottage, not in any deliberate way, but in the manner of things that responded to light without naming it. A faint greying of the sky had begun some time before dawn, thinning the darkness just enough to reveal edges. The air held a coolness that felt unfinished, as though the night had loosened its grip, but not yet let go entirely. Helen stood at the back door and waited. She had woken earlier than usual, not startled into it, but eased into consciousness by a sense that sleep had completed itself. She dressed quietly and moved through the cottage without turning on lights. Outside, the garden lay still. It wrapped itself closely around the cottage, contained rather than expansive, its borders defined by low stone walls and dense planting that had grown into its own arrangements over time. Nothing here appeared newly decided. Everything had arrived at its place gradually, through patience rather than design. Helen stepped out and closed the door behind her. The air felt cool on her face and hands, clean in a way that only early morning seemed to manage. It carried the scent of damp earth and leaf. The cottage remained behind her, quiet and unlit, content to wait. A bird moved somewhere in the hedge. The sound was brief and contained, a rustle rather than a call. The garden did not feel empty. It felt occupied by small, patient presences that did not require acknowledgement. She stepped onto the grass. The dew darkened the soles of her shoes almost immediately. Along the edges, the beds began to resolve into detail. Leaves appeared first, their outlines clearer than their colour. Stems leaned into one another, where space had been claimed gradually, rather than planned. Helen moved slowly, following the curve of the path. A cluster of flowers near the wall had closed themselves overnight, their heads bowed slightly, as if in rest. The garden did not yet offer itself fully. It was still in the process of waking, revealing one thing at a time. She crouched near the nearest bed and rested her hand against the ground. The earth felt cool and firm beneath her palm. She did not dig or disturb it. The contact felt sufficient on its own. Her hand came away damp, carrying the scent of soil that lingered faintly on her skin. She noticed how quiet her thoughts were. Not absent, but unoccupied. They moved slowly, without urgency or direction. The garden held that space easily, offering nothing that needed decision. Colour began to emerge without announcement. Greens deepened, browns warmed. The low stone wall at the far edge revealed its texture. Moss clung to the shaded side, darkened by moisture, its presence steady and untroubled. A patch of herbs leaned slightly into the faint light. Their scent rose softly when her sleeve brushed them. A restrained release that lingered just long enough to be noticed. She recognized it without naming it. Near the center of the garden, an old plum tree stood with its branches spreading outward rather than up. Drops of water clung to its leaves and released themselves one at a time, falling into the grass below with quiet precision. The sound was gentle and irregular, never repeating. Helen watched a single drop fall and disappear. The grass absorbed it immediately. The simplicity of the exchange felt complete, requiring no witness beyond the moment itself. She crossed to the small bench beneath the tree and sat. The wood was cool beneath her. From this position, the space felt balanced. Nothing drew attention away from anything else. A second bird called, this time from farther away. The sound carried briefly over the hedge, then thinned as it moved on. It travelled without echo, arrived without urgency, left without residue. The sky shifted from grey to a muted blue. Shadows softened further, losing their edges rather than sharpening them. Helen felt the moment stretch. Not lengthen, exactly, but widen. Time did not feel paused. It felt unclaimed. She stood and walked the perimeter slowly. A leaf with a torn edge. A stone half embedded in soil. A thread of spider silk caught between two stems, faintly visible when the light reached it at the right angle. None of it asked to be fixed or changed. The garden was not presenting itself as a task. It was offering presence. Above the hedge, the sky had brightened enough to show a thin band of pale colour near the horizon. The restraint felt intentional, as though the morning were taking care not to arrive too quickly. She turned back toward the cottage. The windows reflected the early light faintly, their glass holding a suggestion of colour without committing to it. Helen remained where she was. The moment did not require conclusion. The garden continued to wake around her, leaf by leaf, sound by sound, without signalling completion. The day had begun, but it had not yet chosen its pace. The light did not arrive as a clear boundary between night and day, but as a slow accumulation, a brightening that felt earned rather than imposed. Colour began to separate from form. Greens gained depth, browns warmed. She moved again, unhurried. Near the beds, insects stirred. Their movement was subtle, easily missed. The activity did not feel like a beginning. It felt like continuation, life resuming where it had paused rather than starting anew. Helen stopped near the plum tree again. From this angle, its branches caught the light unevenly, some leaves brightening, while others remained subdued. The tree held multiple states at once, light and shade coexisting without conflict. She walked toward the far bed, where taller plants stood closer together. Their leaves overlapped, forming small pockets of shadow. Moisture clung there longer, beads of water collecting at the tips before releasing themselves in slow, patient drops. Helen reached out and brushed a leaf gently. Water gathered at her fingertip and ran down her hand before falling away. The sensation was cool and precise, enough to anchor her in the moment without startling her back into thought. The garden felt fuller now, not busier, but more defined. The hedge no longer blended into the background. The low wall revealed more of its uneven surface, stones fitted together by hands long gone. Beyond the garden, the world began to stir. A distant engine, a door closing. The sounds arrived softly, filtered by distance and foliage, and did not disturb the quiet she stood within. She sat again on the bench beneath the plum tree. The wood felt less cold than before. She watched the garden hold the light as it arrived. The transformation was gradual enough that it felt less like change and more like revelation, as though the space were showing her what had always been present. Her thoughts remained light. They drifted without attaching themselves to concern or plan. She simply did not follow them. A breeze moved through the garden, just enough to stir leaves and shift the air against her skin. The plants responded with a soft rustle that passed quickly. leaving the space settled again. She stood and walked once more, slower than before. The garden no longer revealed itself piece by piece. It presented itself as a whole, coherent and complete. Near the back door, she paused. From here, she could see the path she had taken, traced faintly through the dew. The marks were already softening, fading as the grass lifted itself. The thought felt reassuring rather than diminishing. Helen turned toward the cottage and stepped inside. The door closed softly behind her, and the garden remained where it was. Fully awake now, continuing without her. The cottage began to wake in small, ordinary ways. Helen moved through the kitchen without turning on the main light, letting the brightness from the window gather on the worktop instead. The kettle filled and settled on the hob. When the flame caught, it did so quietly. Through the window, the garden held its shape more confidently now. The dew had thinned. Leaves lifted themselves toward the light, showing colour more fully. The plum tree stood steady at the centre, its branches no longer releasing drops. Helen poured the water slowly, watching steam rise and drift before dissolving into the brighter air. She carried the mug to the small table by the window and sat, wrapping her hands around the warmth. A gate closed somewhere beyond the hedge. A distant engine passed. The village had begun its movement in layers that felt similar to the garden's own waking. The lightness of earlier had not vanished. It had simply changed its form. The day ahead felt approachable, its shape no longer blank, but not yet insistent. She finished her tea and stood. The small actions carried their own satisfaction, grounded and sufficient. There was no need to preserve the morning exactly as it had been. It had already done what it came to do. She stepped outside once more. The air had warmed slightly, losing the edge of night. The garden responded differently now, less hushed, more settled. It did not feel like a moment passing. It felt like a state reached. Helen walked toward the plum tree and rested her hand against its trunk. The bark was dry now, rough beneath her palm. The tree felt unchanged by the morning it had just witnessed. She stood there briefly, then stepped away. The bench beneath the branches no longer held the same pull. It had served its purpose earlier. Now it was simply a bench again, part of the garden rather than its focus. She walked the perimeter one last time. The spider silk was no longer visible. The leaf with the torn edge remained. The small stone near the wall still sat half embedded in soil. Some details stayed. Others passed. The sky was fully formed now, blue without hesitation. Morning had taken hold without asking for anything in return. She turned back toward the cottage. The shadow that had softened its edges earlier had lifted. It stood present and ordinary, ready to be used again. The quiet of before had not been taken away. It had simply made room. She stepped inside and closed the door. The garden remained outside, unchanged by her leaving it. Helen moved deeper into the cottage, carrying the steadiness of the early light with her, not as a memory to be protected, but as a condition that had already settled. Outside, the garden held the morning without remark. Inside, life resumed its quiet progression, the first hours unfolding with the same patience that had guided the light from night into day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you for supporting the channel.